Yes, I know I'm late. I'm sorry, but we're here with another album review, and this one is actually by Paramore's drummer, Zac Farro. Now, I know Zac Farro has done the whole Halfnoise side project thing, but this is strictly his first album as a solo artist with no band name attached to it, and I was kind of intrigued because hearing what he does with Paramore and what he did with Halfnoise, it's completely different. So I was wondering, where would he go with this solo album? And, well, let's just say, it is very funky, and I would dare say kind of on the edge of R&B. It kind of reminds me like a lot of like 60s and 70s Marvin Gaye almost. Like, it's weird to say coming from the Paramore drummer, but we're here. And it's only 9 tracks long and 25 minutes, so it's not like you have to sit through a bunch of, I guess you can say, filler in this case. Like, it definitely does well. There wasn't any songs I disliked. The only song that I didn't really like but thought was decent was All I Really Want. I don't know, it just didn't hit the same as the other 8 tracks, but it was still fine nonetheless. And then in my favorites, well, the other 8 tracks appear. The title track, Operator, appears as the lead-off track, and it is an absolute banger. Second Chance is nice. One, which I believe was the first single we heard from this album, or it might have been the second, because then there's Simple Actions, and then My, which I remember was another single that released, and that's kind of when I started getting the idea of what this album was going to be as a whole. Gold Days, Sunday Drivin' was another nice one that I feel like, hey, maybe sometimes when I'm driving, I'll just play this song and just kind of, drive along to it and just ease my nerves. And then I Need You finishes off the album as most albums tend to do. They go in a more atmospheric route, still kind of sounding like what the other songs on the album have sounded like, just kind of telling you that the end of the album is coming. Overall, I feel like for his first solo debut, he did a nice job here. He didn't try to reinvent the wheel too much, and although for Paramore fans, it may be a lot different than what you're used to, that's the whole point of him doing this solo album, is so he can create music that he wouldn't necessarily be able to create while on Paramore or with Halfnoise, because even with Halfnoise, he kind of has similar sounding songs to this, but there's also more upbeat songs. With this, it's just strictly, smooth, jazzy, R&B kind of tunes, and it's something different that I'm glad that he got to explore himself, and he got to show his talents outside of being a part of those bands and getting to basically, do what he wants to do without any repercussions or without anybody saying, no, we don't want to do that or we don't think it fits, because it's his project and he is free to do what he wants to do. All in all, I say you give this album a listen, an 8 out of 10. Yes, even Paramore fans should go give this a listen, because it'll make you look at Zac Farro in a different way, as people don't necessarily realize how talented he is outside of just being the drummer for Paramore. He's got a pretty solid singing voice, and he has some very good ideas musically when it comes to structure and sound and all this stuff, that it's almost interesting every time he puts something out that isn't with Paramore. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on this album. You can tell me in the comments below if you've heard this album, what are your thoughts on it? And until then, stay safe out there, and I will catch you all in the next one.